The white rose petals scattered around Olivia's wheelchair like fallen snow, a stark contrast against the dark fabric of her wedding dress. She sat alone in the garden of Riverside Community Church, her shoulders shaking with each sob that tore through her body. 30 minutes ago, her world had collapsed when James, the man she had loved for 5 years, told her he couldn't marry her. Not because he didn't love her, he claimed, but because he couldn't handle a lifetime with someone who couldn't walk beside him. The intricate lace sleeves of her gown felt suffocating, now the train pooling around her wheelchair like a mocking reminder of dreams shattered. 8 months of rehabilitation after the accident, 8 months of James assuring her it didn't matter, that they would get through this together, lies all of it. He had postponed the wedding, claiming it was to give her time to recover, but now she understood. He had been trying to convince himself he could accept her new reality, and today in front of 200 guests, he had finally admitted defeat. "I'm sorry," James had whispered in the bridal suite earlier, not meeting her eyes. "I tried, Olivia. God knows I tried. But seeing you in that dress, knowing you'll never walk down the aisle, I just can't do it." The words had cut deeper than the surgical scars on her spine. Her fingers trembled as they gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. The distant murmur of confused guests filtered through the spring air, along with the unmistakable sound of cars pulling away from the church parking lot. Her father was inside, probably making excuses while her mother and sister frantically called relatives. The humiliation burned hotter than her grief. The sound hit Alexander Hayes' first deep gasping sobs that seemed to tear through the spring air. He froze mid-step, his hand on his daughter's shoulder just outside the side entrance of Riverside Community Church. It was the kind of crying that made your chest tighten, the kind that spoke of something shattered beyond repair. "Daddy, what's that sound?" 6-year-old Lily whispered, her blue eyes wide with concern. Alexander hesitated. They were here for a birthday party. His daughter's classmate was celebrating in the community hall at 2 Summer. It was a beautiful Saturday morning in May, and they had arrived early to help set up. Whatever was happening around the corner in the garden had nothing to do with them. But the crying continued, raw and desperate, the sound of someone whose world had just collapsed. "Stay right here, sweetheart," Alexander said quietly, positioning Lily by the door. "Don't move. I'll be right back." The CEO of Hayes Medical Technologies, a man accustomed to making split-second decisions worth millions of dollars, now found himself drawn to a stranger's pain by an instinct he couldn't ignore. He walked around the corner and stopped dead. A woman sat in a wheelchair in the church garden, surrounded by fallen white rose petals. She was wearing a wedding dress, an elaborate gown with delicate lace sleeves and a train that spilled around her wheelchair like melting snow. Her blonde hair was styled in an intricate updo with small white flowers woven through it. Her makeup, clearly applied with painstaking care, was now streaked down her face. She was completely alone on what was obviously supposed to be her wedding day. The woman's hands trembled as they gripped the arms of her wheelchair. Her shoulders shook with each sob. She hadn't noticed Alexander yet, lost in her own devastation, and he stood there frozen, uncertain whether to approach or retreat, whether his presence would be an intrusion or a kindness. The decision was made for him when she looked up. Her hazel eyes met his, and for a moment they just stared at each other. She looked startled, then embarrassed, then resigned, as if she'd already lost so much dignity today that one more witness to her pain hardly mattered. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice hoarse and broken. "I didn't think anyone would be out here." Alexander took a cautious step forward, in his tailored suit with threads of silver at his temples, giving him a distinguished air. Despite his 40 years, he felt suddenly awkward and out of place. "Are you okay?" The moment the words left his mouth, he wanted to take them back. She was clearly not okay. Nothing about this scene suggested okay. A bitter, hollow laugh escaped her throat. "Am I okay, well?" She gestured at herself, the dress, the wheelchair, the tears, the garden, that should have been filled with wedding guests but was empty except for the two of them. "Today was supposed to be my wedding day. I'm in my dress, the guests are arriving, and my fiancé just told me 30 minutes ago that he can't marry me." The words landed like a physical blow. Alexander felt his stomach drop. "He can't do it," she continued, her voice wavering between rage and heartbreak. "He looked me in the eyes this morning and told me he can't marry me. Not because he doesn't love me, not because we're not compatible, but because of this." She slapped the arm of her wheelchair, the sounds sharp in the quiet garden. "Because I can't walk." Alexander felt something cold and hard form in his chest. What he can't marry someone in a wheelchair. He said he tried. She said each word deliberate and cutting. He said he really, really tried to be okay with it. But looking at me in this dress, knowing I'd never walk down the aisle the way we'd planned, knowing our future would be complicated, he couldn't do it. So he left, just walked out of the church, left me here in this dress in front of 200 people. The silence that followed was suffocating. Alexander stood there, this complete stranger in a church garden, watching a woman's world disintegrate in real time. He'd experienced pain in his life, the kind that carved deep grooves into your soul. But this being rejected on your wedding day in your wedding gown for something completely beyond your control, this was a cruelty he couldn't fathom. 8 months ago, the woman said suddenly, her voice quieter, now almost detached. I was working at my veterinary clinic. I loved my job. I loved the animals. I had my own practice specializing in wildlife rehabilitation. I was good at what I did. She stared at her hands at the engagement ring still on her finger. There was an accident. A storage rack collapsed on me during a renovation. The weight crushed my spine. The surgery saved my life, but she trailed off, her jaw tightening. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I'll never walk again. Alexander's heart cracked a little wider. The gold watch on his wrist, his father's old timepiece, the only thing he'd kept from the days before his success, suddenly felt heavy against his skin. James, my fiancé, he said he'd stay, she continued. He visited me in the hospital. He held my hand during rehab. He said it didn't matter, that we'd get through this together. We postponed the wedding for 6 months so I could focus on recovery. He seemed supportive. He said all the right things, and I believed him. Her voice broke on the last word. I thought he meant it, but he didn't. The word came out like a sigh, like the last bit of air leaving a deflating balloon. 3 weeks ago, I started noticing changes, small things. He stopped holding my hand. He'd flinch when he had to help me with the wheelchair. When he looked at me, there was this doubt in his eyes, but I told myself I was imagining it. I wanted so badly to believe he loved me enough. She wiped at her face with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. This morning, I was in the bridal room with my sister Naomi getting ready. I was nervous but excited, and then James walked in. He wasn't supposed to see me before the ceremony. Bad luck, you know. A bitter laugh. He said he needed to talk, and he told me he couldn't do it, that he'd been trying to convince himself for months that he could handle this, but he couldn't, that he wanted a normal life with a normal wife. The last words came out strangled, and fresh tears spilled down her face. He said he was sorry, as if sorry could fix this, as if sorry could undo the fact that he's been lying to me for months, that he let me plan this whole wedding, let me believe in us. Let me stand here today thinking I was about to marry the love of my life, when all along he was just trying to find the courage to abandon me. Alexander felt anger rising in his chest, not at this woman, but at the man who'd done this to her, at the cowardice it took to wait until the wedding day itself to break someone's heart, at the cruelty of letting her hope right up until the last possible moment. But anger wouldn't help her now. I'm so sorry, Alexander said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. The words felt inadequate, but they were sincere. The woman looked at him, really looked at him, as if trying to understand why the stranger was still standing here listening to her pain. The worst part, she said, her voice cracking, everyone will understand. They'll say James was brave for trying. They'll say it's understandable that he couldn't handle being married to someone disabled. They'll pity me, poor paralyzed Olivia rejected at the altar. For the rest of my life, this will be my story. The bride who was left because she couldn't walk. Olivia, so that was her name. That won't be your story. Alexander heard himself say the words, surprising even him. She looked at him skeptically. How do you know? Because you get to decide what your story is, he said firmly. Not him, not the people inside that church. You. What happened today doesn't define you, it defines him. It shows who he is, and it's not pretty, but it doesn't say anything about your worth. Olivia's eyes filled with fresh tears, but something in her expression shifted slightly. That's easy to say when you're not the one sitting in the wheelchair wearing a wedding dress meant for a ceremony that will never happen. You're right, Alexander acknowledged. I can't know what you're feeling right now, but I do know what it's like to be abandoned by someone who promised to stay. The words hung in the air between them. Olivia studied his face, and Alexander could see her mind working, trying to piece together what he meant. "I'm a single father," he explained. "My daughter, the little girl I told to wait by the door, her name is Lily. She's 6 years old and she has epilepsy." Understanding flickered across Olivia's face. "Her mother left us when Lily was 2. Alexander continued, the old wound still tender even after 4 years. "She said she wasn't ready for the responsibility. Said she couldn't handle the seizures, the hospital visits, the constant worry. She wanted a different life, so she walked away. Just like that. Left both of us." "I'm sorry," Olivia whispered, genuine despite her own pain. Alexander shook his head. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I understand what it feels like when someone you love decides you're not worth the difficulty, when they choose convenience over commitment. And I'm telling you that it says everything about them and nothing about you." Olivia's hands had stopped trembling. She was listening now, really listening. "For a long time after my wife left, I thought maybe she was right," Alexander admitted. "Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe Lily and I were too much work, too complicated. Maybe we didn't deserve someone who would stay." "What changed?" Olivia asked softly. "I realized something," Alexander said. Real love isn't about finding someone when life is easy. It's about choosing to stay when life gets hard. It's about looking at someone's challenges and saying, 'I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.' Your fiancé failed that test, but that doesn't mean you're not worthy of someone who will pass it." The garden fell quiet except for the distant sound of birds and the rustle of leaves in the spring breeze. Olivia looked down at her engagement ring. Then slowly, deliberately, she pulled it off her finger and set it in her lap. "James told me this morning that he wanted a normal wife," she said quietly. "Someone who could walk beside him, someone whose life wouldn't require accommodations or adjustments. Someone easier." "Then he wanted the wrong things," Alexander said simply. Before Olivia could respond, they heard small footsteps, and both turned to see a little girl with chestnut hair and bright blue eyes peeking around the corner. She'd clearly ignored her father's instruction to stay put. "Daddy, you've been gone a long time," Lily said, stepping into the garden. Then her eyes landed on Olivia, and they went wide with wonder. "Wow, you look like a princess." Despite everything, despite the tears and the heartbreak and the ruined wedding, Olivia laughed. It was small and watery, but it was real. "Thank you, sweetie," she said. "I'm Olivia." "I'm Lily," the little girl said, walking closer. She was completely unfazed by the wheelchair, the tears, or the dramatic scene she'd stumbled into. She studied Olivia's elaborate hairstyle and gown with frank admiration. "Why are you sad? Princesses aren't supposed to be some." "Sometimes even princesses have bad days," Olivia said gently. Lily considered this seriously, then nodded. "My daddy always says bad days don't last forever, and that the sun always comes back even after the rain." Alexander felt his heart swell with pride at his daughter's kindness. "That's very wise," Olivia said. "Can I sit with you?" Lily asked. "You look like you could use a friend." And without waiting for permission, Lily plopped down on the grass beside Olivia's wheelchair, reached out and gently touched one of the white flowers in Olivia's hair. "These are so pretty," she said. "Did someone special put them there?" "My sister did," Olivia said softly. "This morning before—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Lily seemed to understand that something sad had happened. "Well, I think you look beautiful," Lily declared with the absolute certainty that only a 6-year-old could muster. "And I think whoever made you friend was wrong." Olivia's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't entirely sad. She looked at this little girl who had appeared out of nowhere, offering uncomplicated kindness and with no expectations attached, and something inside her chest loosened just slightly. Alexander watched his daughter and this heartbroken stranger, and he made a decision that would have seemed insane to anyone else. He sat down in the grass right there in his expensive suit on the ground beside Lily, making their small circle complete. Olivia stared at him in surprise. "You don't have to—" "I know," Alexander interrupted, "but I'm going to anyway." And so they sat there, the three of them, in that church garden on what should have been Olivia's wedding day. The sun filtered through the trees overhead. Rose petals scattered around them like fallen snow. And for the first time since James had walked out, Olivia didn't feel completely alone. "What's your favorite animal?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice bright and curious. Olivia blinked, caught off guard by the question. I work with animals actually, or I did before the accident. I'm a veterinary surgeon specializing in wildlife rehabilitation. Really? Lily's face lit up. Do you help deer and foxes and birds? I do, Olivia said. I had my own clinic before the accident. We treated all kinds of injured wildlife and released them back into their habitats when they were healed. That's the coolest job ever, Lily exclaimed. I want to work with animals when I grow up too. We have a dog at home named Einstein. He's old and he sleeps a lot, but he's really nice. I love dogs, Olivia said, and for the first time that morning, her smile reached her eyes. Maybe you could meet Einstein sometime, Lily said matter-of-factly. He makes people feel better when they're sad. Daddy says that's his superpower. Alexander met Olivia's eyes over Lily's head, and something passed between them, an understanding, a connection, a possibility neither of them had expected. In that moment, despite the circumstances, despite the fact that they were strangers sitting in a church garden, surrounded by the ruins of a wedding that would never happen, Alexander felt something stir in his chest, a warmth he hadn't felt in a very long time. Footsteps approached from the church, and a woman with features similar to Olivia's appeared. She looked exhausted, her face pale and drawn. When she saw Olivia sitting with Alexander and Lily, confusion flickered across her features. Liv, the woman started, then corrected herself. Olivia, we really need to figure out what to do. Mom and Dad are inside with the wedding coordinator. Most of the guests have left, but there are still some people asking questions, and she stopped noticing for the first time that Olivia wasn't crying anymore. Are you okay? She asked carefully. No, Olivia said honestly, but I will be. Give me just a few more minutes, Naomi. Naomi glanced at Alexander and Lily, clearly trying to piece together what was happening. Alexander stood up and offered her a nod of reassurance, a silent message that her sister was safe, that they weren't here to cause harm or gawk at tragedy. Naomi seemed to understand. A few more minutes, she agreed softly. Then we need to get you out of that dress and go home. After Naomi disappeared back into the church, Lily turned to Olivia with sudden determination. You know what, the little girl announced. I think we should have a party right here. A happy party to make up for the sad one. Lily, Alexander started, concerned his daughter was being insensitive, but Olivia interrupted. Actually, that sounds perfect. Lily beamed and immediately started gathering rose petals from the ground, arranging them in a small pile. These can be decorations. And Mr. Hayes, you have your phone right. Can we play music? Alexander pulled out his phone, scrolling through his playlist. What kind of music do princesses like? He asked with a gentle smile. Olivia's laugh was genuine this time. I haven't been asked that question in a very long time. Then it's about time someone asked, Alexander said, and he pressed play. Soft acoustic music drifted from his phone speaker, nothing grand or dramatic, just gentle guitar and a warm voice singing about new beginnings. Lily handed Olivia a small bouquet of rose petals she'd arranged. Every princess needs flowers, she said seriously. Olivia accepted them, holding the delicate petals in her palm, and something shifted inside her. This wasn't the wedding she'd planned. This wasn't the celebration she'd imagined. But in this strange, unexpected moment, sitting in a garden with a kind stranger and his daughter, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. She felt seen. Not as the woman in the wheelchair, not as the rejected bride, not as someone to pity or fix or carefully avoid, just as Olivia. Thank you, she whispered, looking at Alexander. You didn't have to stop. You didn't have to stay. You didn't have to do any of this. Yes, I did, Alexander said quietly. His eyes, a deep shade of blue that reminded her of a clear winter sky, held no pity, only genuine compassion. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is just show up. Even when it's not our place, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then. Olivia studied his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the gentle way he spoke, the ease with which he'd sat down in the grass beside a crying stranger. This man, whoever he was, understood something fundamental about kindness that James had never grasped, that it wasn't about grand gestures or perfect words. It was about presence, about staying, about sitting in the mess with someone and not running away. I don't even know your name, Olivia said suddenly, realizing they'd been sitting here for 20 minutes and she'd never asked. Alexander, he said with a small smile. Alexander Hayes. Well, Alexander Hayes, you might have just saved my life today. I didn't save anything, Alexander said gently. I just reminded you of what you already know, that you're stronger than this moment and that what happened today doesn't get to write the rest of your story. They sat together a while longer, the three of them, as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Lily chattered about school and Einstein, the dog, and her favorite books. Olivia found herself actually listening, actually engaging, actually feeling something other than crushing despair. The pain was still there, raw and throbbing beneath the surface, but for these few moments it had receded enough for her to breathe. When it was finally time to go, when Olivia's parents emerged from the church looking weary and worried, Alexander stood up and brushed grass from his expensive suit pants. "I should let you go with your family," he said, "but before I do, can I give you something?" Olivia nodded, curious. Alexander pulled a small business card from his pocket, wrote something on the back, and handed it to her. On the front was his name and title, Alexander Hayes, CEO, Hayes Medical Technologies. On the back, he'd written his personal cell number. "I'm not trying to be inappropriate," he said quickly. "And there's absolutely no pressure, but if you ever need someone to talk to, someone who understands what it's like to be abandoned by someone who should have stayed, I'm here. Even if it's just to listen." Olivia took the card, her fingers trembling slightly. The raised lettering felt substantial, like a tangible promise, in a day that had seen too many broken ones. "Why are you being so kind to me? You don't know me." "Maybe that's exactly why," Alexander replied thoughtfully. "Because sometimes strangers can offer something that people who know us can't. Distance, objectivity, and the freedom to be honest without worrying about what they'll think of you tomorrow." He knelt down beside her wheelchair, not towering over her, but meeting her at eye level. Literally. It was such a simple gesture, yet so profound in its consideration. "Olivia, I don't know what your life looks like from here. I don't know how long it will take to heal from this, but I know you're going to be okay. I can't explain how I know, but I do. And when you're ready, whether that's tomorrow or next month or next year, I hope you'll reach out, because I think you're someone worth knowing." Tears streamed down Olivia's face, but they weren't the same tears as before. These were different, softer, mixed with something that felt almost like hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Lily threw her arms around Olivia's shoulders in an impulsive hug, nearly knocking the flower bouquet of petals from her lap. "Bye, Princess Olivia. I hope you feel better soon. And don't forget about Einstein." Olivia hugged her back, this precious little girl who'd shown up and simply loved without conditions or hesitations. "Bye, Lily. Thank you for my party." As Alexander and Lily walked away hand in hand, Olivia sat there with the business card in her hand. She looked down at it, at the name written above the prestigious title, Alexander Hayes, CEO. She hadn't realized she'd been pouring her heart out to the head of one of the country's leading medical technology companies. It was strange how insignificant that seemed compared to the kindness he'd shown her. She didn't know if she'd call him. She didn't know if she'd ever see him again. She didn't know anything except that for the first time since James had walked out, she didn't feel completely broken. Her father approached, his face etched with concern and barely suppressed rage at James. "Sweetheart, let's get you home." Olivia nodded, folding the business card carefully and tucking it into the bodice of her wedding dress right over her heart. As her father wheeled her toward the parking lot, she glanced back at the garden one more time, at the scattered rose petals, at the place where a stranger and his daughter had sat with her and refused to let her be alone. And she thought, maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's just the beginning of something I didn't see coming. That evening, as Olivia sat in her apartment, finally out of the wedding dress, wearing comfortable clothes, her hair unpinned and loose around her shoulders, her phone buzzed. She picked it up, expecting another message from Naomi or her mother checking on her. Instead, it was an unknown number. "Hi, Olivia. It's Alexander. I just wanted to make sure you got home okay. No need to respond if you're not up for it. Just wanted you to know someone is thinking of you." Olivia stared at the message for a long moment. Her first instinct was to ignore it, to throw the phone across the room and crawl into bed and never come out. But something stopped her. The memory of Alexander sitting in the grass, the sincerity in his eyes, the way he'd spoken to her not with pity but with respect. The way Lily had called her a princess and meant it. Her fingers moved almost of their own accord. "I'm home. Thank you for today. For stopping. For staying. It meant more than you know." She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed again. "I'm glad, and I meant what I said. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. No expectations. Just a friend who gets it." A friend. When was the last time someone had offered her that without wanting something in return? I might take you up on that, she typed. Fair warning, I'm kind of a mess right now. Aren't we all, came the reply. Get some rest, Olivia. Tomorrow's a new day. She set her phone down and leaned back against the couch, exhausted, but no longer drowning. The apartment was quiet. The wedding that should have happened was over. And yet somehow, impossibly, she felt the tiniest flicker of something in her chest. Not happiness, not yet, but maybe, just maybe, hope. The days that followed were brutal. Olivia had to return wedding gifts field calls from concerned relatives who'd heard what happened, deal with the pitying looks from neighbors who'd seen the decorations being loaded into the church that morning, and put two and two together. James sent one text, "I'm sorry, I hope someday you understand." She didn't respond. What was there to say that she didn't understand, that sorry wasn't enough, that he had destroyed her in a way she wasn't sure she'd recover from? Instead, she deleted his number and blocked him on every platform. But through it all, Alexander texted. Not constantly, not intrusively, just there. How are you today? Saw a dog at the park that reminded me of your work with animals. Lily wants to know if you're feeling better. She drew you a picture. Can I send it? Each message was a lifeline, a small reminder that someone out there saw her as more than the tragic wedding story. On the fifth day after the wedding, that wasn't Olivia found herself actually looking forward to Alexander's texts. They'd started talking more, not about James or the wedding, but about everything else. Books, movies, the challenges of Alexander's role as both CEO and single parent, the frustrations of Olivia's physical therapy, the small joys that still existed even in dark times. Alexander told her about Lily's latest school project, about how she'd insisted on making a get-well-soon card for the princess she'd just met but already cared about. Olivia told him about her therapy sessions, about the anger she felt, about how some days she wanted to scream and other days she just wanted to disappear. And Alexander never tried to fix it, never offered empty platitudes or toxic positivity. He just listened, and somehow that was exactly what she needed. 2 weeks after the garden, Alexander sent a message that was different from the others. Lily has a school event on Friday. Nothing fancy, just a little art show where the kids display their projects. She's been working on a painting and she's really proud of it. She asked if you'd want to come. No pressure at all, but I wanted to pass along the invitation. Olivia stared at the message for a long time. Going out, being around people, facing the world after everything that had happened, it terrified her, but something about the invitation, the casualness of it, the fact that it wasn't a grand gesture but a simple offer from a child who'd shown her kindness on the worst day of her life, made her want to say yes. What time? She typed, her heart racing with anxiety even as she pressed send. 6:00 p.m. at Oakwood Elementary. Fair warning, there will be juice boxes and very enthusiastic children discussing their art in great detail. Olivia smiled, the first real smile she'd managed since the garden. I think I can handle that. Friday evening arrived too quickly. Olivia spent an hour agonizing over what to wear, which was ridiculous because it was an elementary school art show, not a gala. But nothing felt right. Everything felt too formal, or too casual, or too much like trying too hard or not trying enough. Finally, she settled on jeans and a comfortable sweater. Simple, unpretentious, real. The school was buzzing with activity when she arrived. Parents milled around the hallway, admiring crayon drawings and clay sculptures displayed on tables. Children ran past high on sugar and excitement. And there near the back wall was Alexander. He spotted her immediately and smiled, warm, genuine, relieved that she'd actually come. He looked different here, more relaxed than in the garden. He'd traded his suit for dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt that matched his eyes. The CEO was gone, replaced by just a father at his daughter's school event. You made it, he said, walking over. I almost didn't, Olivia admitted, suddenly self-conscious about being the only person in a wheelchair. But Lily invited me, and I don't break promises to 6-year-olds. Smart policy, Alexander said with a smile. They never forget. Lily appeared a moment later, her face lighting up like a firework when she saw Olivia. You came? She threw her arms around Olivia without hesitation, and Olivia hugged her back, feeling something warm and healing in the embrace. I wouldn't miss it, Olivia said. I heard you made a painting. I'd love to see it. Come see, come see. Lily grabbed the handles of Olivia's wheelchair and started to push, then stopped and looked at Alexander. Can I, Daddy? I'll be careful, I promise. Alexander hesitated, then nodded. Just go slow and remember what we talked about with wheelchairs. It's not a toy, and you have to be extra respectful. I know, Lily said seriously. I'm being a helper, not a player. She carefully pushed Olivia toward a small easel in the corner of the room, her small face a mask of concentration. The painting was abstract swirls of color with bright sunbursts and what might have been flowers, or possibly birds. In the corner, in careful child handwriting, was the title When Bad Days End. It's beautiful, Olivia said softly. Tell me about it. Well, Lily began seriously. The dark colors are the bad stuff, like when people are bad or scared or something hurts. But see the yellow and orange, that's when the bad day is ending and good things start happening, because Daddy always says bad days end. They always do. Olivia felt her throat tighten. Your daddy is very wise. I know, Lily said proudly. For the next hour, Olivia found herself swept up in the simple joy of the evening. Lily introduced her to friends, proudly explaining that Olivia was a princess veterinarian who saves wild animals. Alexander stayed close but not hovering, giving her space to breathe while making sure she never felt alone. When a few parents gave Olivia curious looks, noticing the wheelchair, maybe wondering who she was and how she knew the Hayes family, Alexander didn't draw attention to it, didn't make a big deal, just treated her like anyone else, which was, Olivia realized, all she'd ever wanted. As the evening wound down and families started leaving, Alexander walked Olivia to her car, a specially modified sedan that accommodated her wheelchair. Thank you for coming, he said. Lily hasn't stopped talking about you since that day at the church. She's an amazing kid, Olivia said. You're doing something very right. I'm doing my best, Alexander said. That's all any of us can do. Olivia looked at him in the fading light of the parking lot. This man who'd appeared at the worst moment of her life and had quietly, consistently shown up ever since. The CEO of a billion-dollar company who sat in grass in an expensive suit to comfort a stranger. The father who taught his daughter to see people, not disabilities. Can I ask you something? She said suddenly. Anything. Why did you stop that day? Why did you stay? Why are you still here, texting me and inviting me to art shows and being kind to someone you barely know? Alexander was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Because 4 years ago, when my wife left, I felt completely alone, like I was drowning, and everyone else was on the shore just watching, but not helping. And I promised myself that if I ever saw someone drowning, I wouldn't just watch. I'd reach out my hand, even if I was a stranger, even if it was awkward or inconvenient, because someone should have done that for me. And I can't go back and fix my past, but I can show up for someone else's present. In the parking lot lights, his eyes looked almost silver. There was no pretense in them, no hidden agenda, just simple human kindness. Olivia felt tears gathering, but they weren't sad tears. They were something else, something softer. You saved me that day, she whispered. You don't think you did, but you did. You saved yourself, Alexander said gently. I just reminded you that you could. Over the next few weeks, Olivia found her world slowly expanding beyond the confines of her apartment. Alexander's gentle presence in her life through text messages and occasional phone calls provided an anchor as she navigated her new reality. The rejected bride narrative began to fade, replaced by something more complex and undefined. She resumed physical therapy with renewed determination, each small victory a step toward reclaiming her independence. 3 weeks after the art show, Olivia's phone lit up with a message from Alexander that made her pause. Hayes Medical is testing a new adaptive mobility device tomorrow. We need feedback from actual users, not just engineers. Would you consider coming to the lab? No pressure, just thought your perspective might be valuable. Her thumb hovered over the screen. The invitation wasn't charity, it was professional, offering her expertise rather than pity. Still, anxiety tightened her chest at the thought of entering Alexander's world, seeing him in his element as the powerful CEO rather than the kind stranger from the garden. What time? She finally typed back, heart racing despite her attempt at casual confidence. 9 a.m. I'll send a car if that helps. Olivia declined the car, insisting on driving herself. This wasn't a date, it was a consultation. The distinction felt important to maintain, even as she spent an hour that evening selecting an outfit that struck the balance between professional and approachable. The Hayes Medical Technologies headquarters dominated the skyline of downtown Burlington, 40 stories of gleaming glass and steel reaching toward the clouds. As Olivia navigated her wheelchair through the revolving doors into the vast marble lobby, imposing modern sculptures, and a three-story waterfall made her feel impossibly small. Employees in tailored suits and sleek dresses moved purposefully across the polished floor, many glancing curiously at her. Did they wonder why she was there? Did they see only the wheelchair? Olivia straightened her spine, refusing to shrink under their gaze. A young woman approached with efficient steps. "Dr. Warner, I'm Sophia Chen, Mr. Hayes' executive assistant. He asked me to bring you up." Her smile was genuine, without a trace of the discomfort Olivia had grown accustomed to seeing on strangers' faces. "The R&D lab is on the 38th floor. The elevators are this way." On the research and development floor buzzed with activity. Engineers hunched over complex designs, technicians assembling prototypes, scientists consulting in glass-walled conference rooms. This wasn't just a company, it was an innovation factory. Olivia Alexander called emerging from a cluster of white-coated researchers. In this environment, he was transformed, the casual father replaced by the commanding executive. His tailored navy suit and authoritative presence drew deference from everyone they passed. Yet when he smiled at her, she glimpsed the man from the garden. "Welcome to Hayes Medical. Thank you for coming. Let me introduce you to our adaptive technology team." For the next hour, Olivia found herself immersed in discussions about mobility, design, biomechanics, and user experience. The engineers treated her input with genuine respect, taking notes as she pointed out flaws in their prototype wheelchair pressure points. They'd overlooked transfer mechanisms that would be difficult for users with limited upper body strength control systems that required unnecessary movements. "You have insights we desperately need," the lead designer admitted. "Most of our testers come in after we've finalized the design, but you're identifying the issues we didn't even consider." Alexander watched from the edge of the room, saying little but observing everything. Occasionally their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Mutual respect, growing connection, and beneath it all, an undercurrent neither was ready to name. As the team broke for lunch, Alexander approached. "You're brilliant with them. Would you consider joining us for the rest of the development process? As a paid consultant, of course." "I'm not an engineer or a designer. I'm just someone who uses a wheelchair." "Exactly." Alexander leaned against the wall, careful not to tower over her. "That's precisely what this team is missing, someone who lives the experience daily. The best technology comes from collaboration between designers and users." His expression grew serious. "This isn't charity, Olivia. This is business. Your expertise has real value." Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the lab. "Alexander, there you are?" A tall man with silver hair and a permanent frown strode toward them, radiating displeasure. "The board meeting started 15 minutes ago. Everyone's waiting." Alexander straightened. "Marcus, I apologize for the delay. This is Dr. Olivia Warner, our new mobility device consultant." The introduction carried an unmistakable message: Olivia belonged here. Marcus Reed, Chief Financial Officer, according to his name badge, assessed Olivia with cold calculation. His gaze lingered on her wheelchair, his handshake perfunctory. "Interesting timing for a new hire. Perhaps we should discuss resource allocation in today's meeting. Perhaps we should discuss our company mission statement instead." Alexander replied, his tone pleasant but unyielding. "Innovation that improves lives, not just profit margins." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, challenged disapproval, perhaps suspicion. He nodded curtly and departed, leaving tension hanging in the air. "I should let you get to your meeting," Olivia said quietly. Alexander's expression softened. "Would you consider my offer, the consulting position?" The prospect terrified and thrilled her simultaneously. Returning to professional work, being valued for her mind, rather than pitied for her disability, creating something that might help others, it felt like reclaiming a piece of herself James had stolen. "Yes," she decided, "but I need to be treated like any other consultant. No special accommodations because we met in a garden on your almost wedding day," Alexander finished. "Agreed, this is strictly professional." But the warmth in his eyes suggested their connection had already evolved beyond simple professionalism. Over the following weeks, Olivia integrated into the Hayes medical team, commuting to the office 3 days a week. The work absorbed her, gradually filling the void left by her shuttered veterinary practice. Though initially self-conscious about her presence, she soon found most employees treated her with normal professional courtesy, focusing on her contributions rather than her wheelchair. Marcus Reed remained the exception. He appeared frequently during her consultation sessions, scrutinizing the project timeline, questioning expenses, and making thinly veiled comments about emotional investment clouding business judgment. Each interaction left Alexander tense and Olivia wondering if accepting the position had been a mistake. "Don't mind Marcus," the lead engineer assured her after a particularly tense budget review. "He's been gunning for Alexander's position for years. The board respects Alexander too much to consider it, but Marcus hasn't given up. He's looking for any weakness or mistake to exploit. And he thinks I'm that mistake," Olivia realized aloud. The engineer's silence confirmed her suspicion. That evening, Olivia remained late reviewing design specifications in the now quiet lab. Lost in concentration, she didn't notice Alexander's approach until he spoke. "You're still here. It's almost 8. She looked up, startled by how different he appeared with his tie loosened and jacket discarded. More like the Alexander from the garden, less like the untouchable CEO. "I wanted to finish these reviews. The pressure distribution on the seatback still isn't right." She hesitated, then asked the question that had been haunting her. "Am I creating problems for you with your board?" Alexander settled into a chair across from her, the weight of his responsibilities visible in the shadows beneath his eyes. "Marcus is creating problems. You're creating solutions. He thinks there's something inappropriate happening between us." The words emerged before she could reconsider them. "Marcus thinks everything is inappropriate that doesn't directly increase quarterly earnings." Alexander's gaze met hers, steady and uncompromising. "I didn't build this company to please Marcus Reed or even the board. I built it because my sister needed medical technology that didn't exist, and I was tired of waiting for someone else to create it." "Your sister?" The personal revelation surprised her. In all their conversations, Alexander had never mentioned a sister. Pain flickered across his features. "Emily. She was born with spina bifida. Our parents weren't wealthy, and the equipment she needed was either prohibitively expensive or poorly designed." His hands curled into fists, then relaxed with conscious effort. "I promised her I'd create better options. She didn't live to see Hayes Medical become what it is today, but everything we develop here is part of that promise." Understanding bloomed within Olivia. Alexander's kindness toward her wasn't random chance or attraction. It was rooted in something deeper, more personal. "That's why you stopped in the garden that day. You saw the wheelchair." "I saw a person in pain," Alexander corrected gently. "The wheelchair was secondary." He glanced at his watch and stood. "Have you eaten dinner, Lily's with her grandparents tonight? And I know a restaurant nearby with excellent wheelchair accessibility. No pressure, strictly colleagues grabbing a meal after work." The invitation hung between them, ostensibly casual, yet weighted with unspoken possibilities. Olivia should refuse, maintain professional boundaries, protect her still-healing heart, avoid giving Marcus Reed ammunition. Yet the prospect of returning to her empty apartment held no appeal. "I'd like that," she found herself saying, "as colleagues, of course." The restaurant Alexander chose was understated, yet elegant, tucked away from the main downtown thoroughfare. No white tablecloths or pretentious maitre d', just warm lighting, comfortable seating, and a jazz trio playing softly in the corner. The staff greeted Alexander by name, but made no fuss, treating him like any other valued customer, rather than the CEO of Burlington's largest employer. "You come here often?" Olivia asked as the waiter poured their wine, a rich Cabernet she hadn't ordered, but immediately appreciated. "It's my refuge when work runs late." The owner modified the entire layout to accommodate his mother's wheelchair. Alexander's expression remained casual, but the choice revealed his thoughtfulness. He'd brought her somewhere she could navigate comfortably without making a point of it. The conversation flowed easily, drifting from work to books to childhood memories, carefully circumnavigating the painful recent past. Alexander described growing up middle class in Cleveland, the son of a high school physics teacher, and a nurse, his drive to succeed fueled by his sister's needs and his own determination to create change. "Emily was the real genius," he admitted. "She designed her own adaptive equipment in our garage when she was 14 using parts from the junkyard. I was just the kid brother who learned engineering to help execute her ideas." Olivia shared stories of her rural Pennsylvania childhood, discovering her passion for wildlife rehabilitation after nursing an injured hawk back to health. The struggle to convince her academic parents that veterinary medicine was a real career compared to their hoped-for law or medicine. They came around when I opened my own practice, she said, surprised by how easily she could reference her pre-accident life without the usual stab of grief. Though my father still introduces me at family gatherings as my daughter the doctor, animal doctor, but still. Alexander laughed to sound warm and genuine. For a moment, they were just two people connecting over shared experiences. The framework of CEO and consultant temporarily dissolved. When their hands accidentally brushed reaching for the breadbasket, neither pulled away immediately. The evening ended too soon. Alexander insisted on walking Olivia to her car, despite her protests that she was perfectly capable of navigating the 2 blocks. The night air carried the crisp promise of approaching autumn stars, puncturing the dark canvas above. "Thank you," Olivia said as they reached her vehicle. "I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a dinner conversation that much." "The pleasure was mine." Alexander stood with hands in his pockets, his tall frame silhouetted against the street lamps. "You're easy to talk to, Olivia." A loaded silence stretched between them, fragile and expectant. Olivia felt herself teetering on a precipice, wanting to lean into the connection growing between them, terrified of misreading the situation, of opening herself to fresh heartbreak. "I should go," she whispered, breaking the moment. Alexander nodded, helping her into her car with practiced efficiency, his hands steady and respectful. "I'll see you tomorrow at the slab." "Tomorrow," she confirmed already, anticipating their next encounter even as she drove away. The consulting work provided structure to Olivia's days, but weekends stretched empty before her. On Saturday afternoon, restless in her apartment, she received a text from Alexander. "Lily's asking about her princess friend. We're taking Einstein to the park near the lake. Join us if you'd like, no pressure." The casual invitation belied the significance of the step, meeting outside work, spending time with his daughter, entering the personal sphere of Alexander's life more deeply. Still, the prospect of another solitary weekend decided her. The lakeside park bustled with weekend activity, families picnicking, children playing, couples strolling hand in hand. Olivia navigated her wheelchair along the paved path, scanning faces until she spotted them near the water's edge. Lily waved frantically, jumping up and down beside an elderly golden retriever who observed her antics with dignified patience. "Princess Olivia, you came." Lily bolted toward her Einstein, following at a more sedate pace. "This is Einstein. He's super smart and knows lots of tricks, and he's the best dog ever." Alexander approached more slowly, dressed casually in jeans and a worn Harvard sweatshirt, looking younger and more relaxed than his corporate persona. "Thanks for coming. She's been talking about you all morning." Einstein approached Olivia's wheelchair with gentle curiosity, resting his graying muzzle on her knee after a cautious sniff. She scratched behind his ears, earning a contented sigh. "He likes you," Lily announced. "Einstein only puts his head on people he really likes." "I'm honored," Olivia replied, feeling the dog's steady heartbeat against her leg. "He's beautiful." They spent the afternoon in simple pleasures, watching Lily attempt to teach Einstein new tricks, sharing the picnic Alexander had prepared, enjoying the autumn sunshine. When Lily ran ahead to the playground, Alexander helped Olivia onto a bench overlooking the lake, their shoulders almost touching as they sat side by side. "She adores you," Alexander said, watching his daughter navigate the monkey bars. "She asks about you constantly." "She's special," Olivia replied. "You're raising an extraordinary person." His smile carried both pride and uncertainty. "I'm doing my best. Single parenting wasn't exactly in my life plan." "Does she see her mother?" The question slipped out before Olivia could consider its propriety. Alexander's jaw tightened. Rebecca left when Lily was 2. No contact until 3 months ago, when she suddenly decided she wanted to reconnect with her daughter. His voice carried suppressed anger. 4 years of silence, then she appears expecting to waltz back into Lily's life when it's convenient for her. What happened? "I agreed to supervise visits for Lily's sake, not Rebecca's." Alexander's gaze remained fixed on his daughter, tracking her movements through the playground. 3 visits, then nothing. No calls, no explanation. She just disappeared again. Olivia's heart ached for both father and daughter. "I'm sorry. That must have been devastating for Lily." "She pretends it wasn't, but I hear her crying sometimes at night." His hands clenched. I can run a $1 billion company, but I can't protect my daughter from her own mother's indifference. Instinctively, Olivia covered his hand with hers. You show up every day. That matters more than you know. Alexander turned his palm upward, their fingers intertwining naturally. The connection felt both startling and inevitable, his skin warm against hers. Dr. Warner, is that you? The intrusion shattered the moment. Olivia looked up to find Amanda Peterson, a former client from her veterinary practice, staring at them with undisguised curiosity. I thought it was you, Amanda exclaimed. We've all wondered what happened after, well, you know. Her gaze flickered between Olivia and Alexander, clearly connecting dots and drawing conclusions. And now here you are with a friend. The emphasis on friend carried unmistakable insinuation. Heat crept up Olivia's neck as she withdrew her hand from Alexander's. Mr. Hayes is my employer, she said stiffly. I'm consulting on a project for his company. Amanda's expression registered disbelief. Of course, she simpered. How nice to see you. Recovering. With a meaningful glance toward Alexander, she sauntered away, already extracting her phone, undoubtedly to spread the gossip that Olivia Warner had rebounded from her wedding disaster with wealthy Alexander Hayes. I should go, Olivia muttered, mortification washing through her. People will talk. Let them, Alexander replied, but didn't stop her when she called goodbye to Lily and wheeled herself back toward the parking lot. That night, Olivia's phone exploded with texts from former friends and acquaintances, each message thinly disguising voyeuristic interest as concern. So glad to see you out and about. Who's the handsome CEO? Moving on already, good for you. The subtext was clear. Poor Olivia desperately latching on to the first man who showed interest after James abandoned her. The pity infuriated her more than the speculation. By Monday morning, the gossip had apparently reached Hayes Medical. Olivia noticed glances and whispers as she entered the R&D department. Marcus Reed appeared within the hour, his disapproval palpable. Dr. Warner, he began without preamble, the board has expressed concerns about potential conflicts of interest in your consulting arrangement. What conflicts? Olivia kept her voice level, despite her racing pulse. There are rumors about your relationship with Alexander. Inappropriate entanglements between executives and contractors must reflect poorly on the company. His thin smile held no warmth. Perhaps we should terminate the consulting agreement to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Anger flared within her. My work speaks for itself, Mr. Reed. The design improvements I've suggested have been implemented with measurable results. If the board has concerns about my performance, I'd be happy to review the data with them. It's not your performance in the lab that concerns us, Marcus replied silkily. Then perhaps you should focus on what does concern you, the company's products and reputation. Olivia held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. Unless you're suggesting Hayes Medical prioritizes gossip over innovation. Marcus's expression hardened. You've known Alexander for what, a month? I've worked alongside him for 15 years. I've seen his charitable impulses before. They always end the same way. Don't mistake professional burdens for personal interest, Dr. Warner. It will only lead to disappointment. The implication stung more than Olivia wanted to admit. Was that all she was to Alexander? A charitable impulse, a broken bird to rescue a momentary project before he moved on. Thank you for your concern, she replied icily. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. For the remainder of the day, Olivia buried herself in technical specifications, avoiding the common areas and declining lunch invitations. When Alexander texted to ask if everything was all right, she replied with professional brevity, citing deadline pressure. That evening, alone in her apartment, doubt crept in. What was she doing? Developing feelings for her employer, a man so far above her current station that their worlds barely intersected, a man whose kindness might be rooted more in pity than genuine connection, whose daughter might face another abandonment if Olivia couldn't handle the demands of their complicated situation. Her phone chimed, another text from Alexander. Miss talking to you today, dinner tomorrow. There's something important I'd like to discuss. The message sent her heart racing. Important discussions rarely boded well. Was he firing her? Ending their friendship, pursuing something more? All possibilities terrified her equally. Before she could reply, another message appeared from an unexpected source. Olivia, it's James. I've been thinking about us. Can we talk? I made a terrible mistake. The text blindsided her. 6 weeks of silence, then this reaching out as if he had any right to her time or attention after what he'd done. Her fingers trembled as she typed a response intending dismissal, but hesitated before sending. What if James had genuinely changed? What if this was her chance to reclaim the life that had been stolen from her? The thought sickened her almost immediately. That life was gone. The Olivia who had loved James no longer existed, transformed by betrayal, wheelchair, and the painful growth that followed. Still, curiosity and a perverse desire for closure made her agree to meet him for coffee the following afternoon. James chose a cafe near her apartment, convenient for her mobility needs, she noted with bitter irony. Too bad he hadn't shown such consideration when it actually mattered. He was already seated when she arrived, rising awkwardly as she approached. Olivia, he breathed, looking exactly as she remembered, yet somehow diminished. Thank you for coming. You have 15 minutes, she replied, positioning her wheelchair across the small table. I have another appointment. James appeared genuinely nervous, fidgeting with his coffee cup. You look good, he began hesitantly. Really good. What do you want, James? He drew a deep breath. I made a horrible mistake. Walking away was the biggest regret of my life. I've been in therapy working through my fears and limitations. I understand now what I threw away. You didn't throw anything away, Olivia corrected. You rejected me on our wedding day, in front of everyone we know. I was a coward, James admitted, reaching for her hand. She withdrew it before he could make contact. But I've changed. I want another chance, Liv. We built a life together for 5 years. That doesn't just disappear. Yes, it does. The certainty in her voice surprised even her. It disappeared the moment you decided my wheelchair made me unworthy of your love. That's not fair. I was overwhelmed, confused, and I was abandoned. Olivia leaned forward, finding strength in confronting the man who had shattered her world. You told me my disability was too much for you. Do you have any idea what that did to me? How long it took to believe I deserved basic human decency again? James flinched. I'm sorry. I can't change the past, but I can promise a different future. I've missed you every day. No one understands me like you do. The declaration hung between them, pathetic in its self-centeredness. 6 weeks ago, these words might have weakened her resolve, offered false hope of reclaiming what was lost. Now they revealed only James's fundamental selfishness, his needs, his comfort, his redemption story. I don't miss you at all, Olivia realized aloud, the truth of it washing through her like cleansing rain. I thought I would forever, but I don't. You're not the man I believed you were. James's expression hardened, his facade of contrition slipping. This is about that CEO, isn't it? I heard you've been seeing him, moving up in the world with your sob story. The accusation confirmed everything. James hadn't changed, hadn't grown, hadn't even bothered to understand why his actions were unforgivable. He still saw her disability as a defect, her pain as currency, her worth tied to her ability to fulfill his needs. Goodbye, James. Olivia turned her wheelchair, prepared to leave without further engagement. He'll leave you too, you know, James called after her loud enough for nearby patrons to hear. Men like that don't stay with broken women. You're a novelty, a charity case. When the shine wears off, a real man, Olivia cut him off, voice steady despite her racing heart, doesn't measure a woman's worth by her ability to walk beside him. He walks beside her wherever and however she goes. Without waiting for his response, she exited the cafe, breathing deeply in the crisp afternoon air. The confrontation left her shaking, but oddly liberated. James held no power over her anymore. His opinion irrelevant, his approval unnecessary, his love unwanted. She had survived his rejection and emerged stronger, clearer about what she deserved. Her phone buzzed with a reminder about dinner with Alexander. After the encounter with James, she needed time to process, to center herself before facing another emotional conversation. She texted Alexander, postponing their dinner with a vague excuse about not feeling well. His response came immediately. Feel better. Let me know if you need anything. No pressure, no questions, no demands, just support offered freely. The contrast with James couldn't be starker. The following day at Hayes Medical, Olivia immersed herself in work, maintaining professional distance from Alexander during team meetings. If he noticed her withdrawal, he respected her space, limiting their interactions to necessary consultations. As evening approached and the lab emptied, Olivia remained fine-tuning control mechanisms on the latest prototype. The sound of approaching footsteps broke her concentration. "You're avoiding me," Alexander stated simply, no accusation in his tone. Olivia sighed, finally meeting his gaze. "It's complicated." "Marcus spoke to you, didn't he?" Alexander settled into a chair across from her. "He mentioned addressing the rumors yesterday. What did he say?" "Nothing that matters." The lie tasted bitter. "It matters if it's affecting you, affecting us." The directness of his statement, acknowledging the undefined us that had been developing between them, broke through her defenses. "He implied I'm your latest charity case." The words emerged sharper than intended. "That you have a pattern of charitable impulses that never last. That I shouldn't confuse professional courtesy with personal interest." Anger flashed across Alexander's features. "Marcus has his own agenda. He's been trying to undermine me with the board for years." "Is he wrong?" The question emerged from Olivia's deepest insecurity. "Did you hire me out of pity? Stop in that garden because you saw another broken person to fix? Is that what you think of me?" Alexander's voice remained gentle despite the hurt evident in his eyes. "That I collect damaged people as some kind of hobby. I don't know what to think anymore." Olivia wheeled herself to the window, gazing out at the city lights blooming in the dusk. "James contacted me yesterday. He wants to reconcile." The revelation hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Alexander's silence stretched until she turned to gauge his reaction. His face revealed nothing, control firmly in place. "What did you tell him?" he finally asked. "That I don't miss him. That it's over." She hesitated. "But it made me question everything. What am I doing, Alexander, developing feelings for my boss, letting your daughter get attached to me? What happens when this, whatever this is, inevitably ends?" "Why is it inevitable?" Alexander moved closer, kneeling beside her wheelchair to meet her at eye level. "Why are you so certain this ends badly?" "Because men leave." Olivia's voice cracked. "They leave when things get hard, when the reality of life with someone disabled becomes inconvenient, when the initial rush of playing hero fades." "I'm not James." Alexander's intensity pierced through her fear. "And I'm not trying to be anyone's hero. I'm just a man who met an extraordinary woman in the most unlikely circumstances and can't stop thinking about her." The sincerity in his eyes threatened to unravel her carefully constructed barriers. Still doubt lingered. "Your life is complicated enough, Alexander. You have Lily to consider, a company to run. I'm still putting myself back together." "Life is always complicated," he countered. "That's not a reason to walk away from something that could be remarkable." He reached for her hand, giving her every opportunity to withdraw. She didn't. "I'm not asking for declarations or commitments. I'm asking if you'd be willing to explore the possibility of us, whatever that might become." The proposition terrified and tempted her in equal measure, the vulnerability of opening herself to potential heartbreak against the promise of genuine connection. Before she could respond, her phone rang. The hospital's number flashed on the screen. "I have to take this," she apologized, answering quickly. The nurse's voice carried urgent concern. "Dr. Warner, you're listed as Mr. Hayes's emergency contact for Lily Hayes. She's been brought into the ER with a severe seizure. We haven't been able to reach her father." Cold fear washed through Olivia. "I'll find him immediately. Tell Lily we're on our way." She ended the call, turning to Alexander with alarm. "Lily's in the hospital, seizure. Your phone must be off." All color drained from Alexander's face as he pulled out his phone, finding it dead. "God, no. Which hospital?" "Burlington General." Olivia was already gathering her things. "I'm coming with you." There was no discussion. They moved together with synchronized urgency. Alexander drove while Olivia called his hospital for updates, her calm professionalism a counterbalance to his barely contained panic. 15 minutes later, they rushed into the pediatric emergency department, Alexander's status opening doors immediately. Lily lay small and pale against the white hospital sheets, monitors beeping steadily. Her babysitter, a college student named Megan, paced anxiously nearby. "Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry," she blurted. "It happened so fast. We were just watching a movie, then she started convulsing. I called 911 right away." "You did everything right," Alexander assured her, though his focus remained entirely on Lily. "Thank you, Megan. You can go home now." The attending physician arrived moments later, clipboard in hand. Mr. Hayes, I'm Dr. Patel. Lily had a tonic-clonic seizure lasting approximately 3 minutes. Longer than her usual episodes, I understand. Alexander nodded, visibly struggling to maintain composure. Her typical seizures last less than a minute. She hasn't had a major episode in almost 6 months. We've administered anti-seizure medication and she's stable now, but I'd like to run some additional tests. Has she been ill recently? Any changes to her routine or medication? While Alexander answered the doctor's questions, Olivia approached Lily's bedside, gently taking her small hand. The child's eyelids fluttered open, confusion giving way to recognition. "Princess Olivia," she whispered hoarsely, "you came too." "Of course I did," Olivia replied softly. "Your dad and I were worried about you." Lily's gaze drifted to her father, deep in consultation with the doctor. "Is Daddy scared? He looks scared." "He loves you very much," Olivia explained. "Parents get scared when their children don't feel well." "Will you stay?" Lily's fingers tightened around Olivia's. "Sometimes I have more than one seizure, and it makes Daddy sad." The simple request pierced Olivia's heart. "I'll stay as long as you want me to." As the night progressed, Lily drifted in and out of sleep while tests were conducted. Alexander remained vigilant at her bedside, his usual commanding presence reduced to tense worry. Olivia stayed, providing quiet support, fetching coffee, liaising with nurses, offering practical assistance without intrusion. Around 2 a.m., with Lily finally sleeping peacefully and preliminary test results showing no immediate concerns, Alexander stepped into the hallway with Olivia. "You should go home," he insisted, exhaustion evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. "You've done more than enough." "I promised Lily I'd stay," Olivia replied simply, "and I keep my promises." Something cracked in Alexander's carefully maintained facade, vulnerability seeping through the fissures of his control. He leaned against the wall, shoulders sagging under the weight of fear and responsibility. "I can't lose her," he whispered, the words barely audible. "She's everything to me." Without hesitation, Olivia reached for his hand, offering silent solidarity in the sterile hospital corridor. Alexander interlaced their fingers, drawing strength from the connection. "You're not alone in this," Olivia assured him. "Not tonight, not tomorrow." His gaze met hers, intense despite his exhaustion. "Why are you here, Olivia? Really?" The question demanded absolute honesty. "Because I care about Lily, and because I care about you. More than I should, probably more than is wise. But here we are." Alexander closed his eyes briefly, absorbing her words. When he opened them, determination had replaced uncertainty. "When Lily's better, we need to talk. About us. About possibilities." "One crisis at a time," Olivia advised gently. "Let's focus on Lily now. The rest can wait." Dawn found them still at the hospital. Lily's condition improved enough that discharge was being discussed. As Alexander consulted with the neurologist about medication adjustments, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway of Lily's room. "What are you doing here?" Olivia demanded instinctively, positioning herself between the newcomer and Lily's bed. Rebecca Hayes, Alexander's ex-wife, and Lily's absent mother, stepped forward, designer handbag clutched like a shield. Her perfectly styled appearance seemed jarringly out of place in the hospital setting. "I'm her mother," Rebecca replied coolly. "The hospital contacted me after they couldn't reach Alexander. Hours ago." Olivia kept her voice low to avoid waking Lily. "Where were you?" "I had a charity event. I came as soon as I could." Rebecca's gaze traveled past Olivia to the sleeping child. "How is she?" "Stable, no thanks to you." Rebecca's perfectly arched eyebrows rose in indignation. "I don't know who you think you are. She's someone who showed up when Lily needed her." Alexander interrupted, returning to find the confrontation in progress. "Unlike you." The tension between former spouses crackled like static electricity. Rebecca's expression shifted from defensive to calculating as she assessed the dynamic between Alexander and Olivia. "I see you found a replacement mother for our daughter," she observed acidly. "How convenient." "What do you want, Rebecca?" Alexander's voice remained controlled despite the muscle working in his jaw. "To see my daughter, of course." She stepped closer to the bed. "And to discuss our family situation." "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Alexander, about my priorities, about what really matters." "Your thinking comes 4 years too late." Rebecca lowered her voice to an intimate murmur. "People make mistakes. Forgiveness is part of healing. We owe it to Lily to consider reconciliation." The suggestion hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Olivia felt suddenly intrusive, witnessing a conversation too personal, too loaded with history for her presence. She began to move toward the door, giving them privacy. "Stay," Alexander said quietly, the single word halting her retreat. He turned back to Rebecca. "There is no we anymore. There hasn't been since you walked out on our 2-year-old daughter because her medical needs were inconvenient for your social calendar." Rebecca's perfect composure slipped momentarily. "That's unfair. I was 26, overwhelmed, unprepared for a child with special needs." "So was I," Alexander cut in. "The difference is I stayed. I learned. I adjusted my life around our daughter instead of abandoning her." "I've changed," Rebecca insisted. "I want to be part of Lily's life again. A real part, not just occasional visits." Alexander's expression revealed nothing of his internal struggle. "We'll discuss this another time. Right now, Lily needs rest, not emotional complications." Rebecca's gaze flickered between Alexander and Olivia, speculation evident in her assessment. "Fine, but this conversation isn't over." She approached the bed, pressing a light kiss to Lily's forehead before departing with a final meaningful glance toward Olivia. The room felt heavier in her wake, possibilities and complications multiplying with each passing second. Olivia stared at the door, mind racing. "She wants you back," she stated flatly. Alexander ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "What she wants is access to Hayes Medical's profits. The company's value has tripled since our divorce. She's still Lily's mother." The words tasted bitter but necessary. "If there's any chance of giving Lily her family back, don't." Alexander's interruption carried quiet intensity. "Don't suggest I should reconcile with Rebecca for Lily's sake. That's not what either of us needs." Before Olivia could respond, Lily stirred, eyes opening to find both adults at her bedside. "Is it morning?" she asked groggily. "Can we go home now?" "Soon, sweetheart," Alexander promised, instantly refocusing his attention. "The doctor needs to check you one more time." Lily's gaze drifted to Olivia. "You stayed all night." "I said I would." Olivia smiled, pushing aside complicated adult emotions to focus on the child. "Promises matter." The discharge process took another 2 hours, during which Olivia stepped back, allowing Alexander to handle the medical instructions and paperwork. As they prepared to leave, Alexander turned to her with genuine gratitude. "Thank you isn't enough for what you did last night," he said quietly. "I don't know how I would have managed alone." "You would have," Olivia assured him. "You're stronger than you realize. But I'm glad I could help." Alexander hesitated, clearly wrestling with something unsaid. "Rebecca's appearance complicates things." "Life is always complicated." Olivia echoed his earlier words with a small smile. "Go home, take care of Lily. We'll talk when things settle." As Alexander helped Lily into his car, the child leaned out the window. "Are you coming over, Princess Olivia? Daddy makes good pancakes when I'm sick." The innocent invitation highlighted the precarious position they occupied. Not quite family, no longer merely acquaintances suspended in the undefined space between possibility and commitment. "Not today, sweetie," Olivia replied gently. "You need rest and time with your dad. But soon, okay." Lily's disappointed nod twisted something in Olivia's chest. She'd allowed herself to grow attached to this child, to become enmeshed in their lives without clear boundaries or definitions. The realization terrified her. She had no claim here, no established role, nothing to prevent another devastating loss. As Alexander's car pulled away, Olivia sat alone in her adapted vehicle, contemplating the night's revelations. The reappearance of Rebecca threatened whatever tentative connection was forming between her and Alexander. More importantly, it threatened Lily's emotional stability, already precarious after her mother's previous abandonment. If Rebecca was sincere about reconciliation, would Alexander consider it, or should he? The question circled without resolution as Olivia drove home in the early morning light, exhaustion settling into her bones. She had just transferred from her car to her wheelchair when her phone chimed with a text from Alexander. "She's asking for you. I know it's complicated, but would you consider stopping by later, just for a little while? She wants to show you her rock collection." The message carried no pressure, no expectations, just an honest acknowledgement of a child's wishes. Olivia stared at the screen, poised at the crossroads of self-protection and risk, of caution and courage. Her thumbs hovered over the keypad as she contemplated her response, knowing it represented far more than an answer about a social visit. It was a decision about moving forward or retreating, about embracing the messy, complicated truth of connection or insulating herself from potential pain. For a moment, James's cruel words echoed, "Men like that don't stay with broken women." Then Alexander's counterpoint followed, "I'm not asking for declarations or commitments. I'm asking if you'd be willing to explore the possibility of us, whatever that might become." Possibility. The word contained both terror and hope, both risk and reward. Olivia took a deep breath and typed her reply, "I'll be there at 4. Tell Lily I can't wait to see those rocks." The autumn leaves blazed in crimson and gold around Olivia as she navigated her wheelchair up the winding path to Alexander's home. 3 months had passed since Lily's hospitalization, 3 months of careful navigation through the complicated terrain of their evolving relationship. What had begun as tentative friendship had grown into something deeper, though neither had put a definitive label on what existed between them. Alexander's house sat on a wooded hillside overlooking Lake Champlain, the modernist structure of glass and stone, somehow organic against the natural landscape. Not the ostentatious mansion one might expect from a billionaire CEO, but a thoughtful home designed for both beauty and accessibility. The smooth ramps integrated seamlessly with the architecture, allowing Olivia to approach the front door without assistance, a consideration she suspected had been added recently, though Alexander never mentioned it. Lily flung the door open before Olivia could ring the bell, her face alight with excitement. "You're here, Daddy made pancakes even though I'm not sick anymore. And Einstein has a new trick to show you." Behind her, Alexander appeared in casual weekend attire jeans and a soft flannel shirt that softened his usually commanding presence. The smile that spread across his face at the sight of Olivia carried warmth that chased away the November chill. "Perfect timing. The pancakes are just about ready." The domestic scene unfolding inside contrasted sharply with the professional environment where they usually interacted. Lily chattered about school projects while Alexander moved efficiently around the kitchen. Olivia found herself drawn into their morning rhythm, helping set the table as if she'd done it 100 times before. This easy comfort terrified and thrilled her simultaneously. The past 3 months had been a delicate dance professional collaboration at Hayes Medical. During the week, careful social interaction on weekends, always with Lily as both catalyst and buffer. Alexander respected her need for caution, never pushing for definitions or declarations, content to let whatever was growing between them develop at its own pace. Rebecca's periodic appearances complicated matters. Since Lily's hospitalization, she had maintained somewhat regular contact, scheduling supervised visits that left her daughter simultaneously excited and confused. Alexander shared his concerns with Olivia during their quiet evening conversations, his protective instinct warring with Lily's obvious desire for maternal connection. After breakfast, Lily insisted on showing Olivia her latest rock collection, carefully arranged on shelves in her bedroom. "This one's a metamorphic rock," she explained with scientific precision, holding up a striated stone. "It used to be something else, but it changed when it went through really hard times. That made it different, but still beautiful." The unintentional metaphor wasn't lost on Olivia. She glanced at Alexander, who leaned against the doorframe watching them, and found his eyes already on her, thoughtful, patient, seeing far more than she sometimes wished to reveal. Later, while Lily played in the yard with Einstein, they sat on the deck overlooking the lake, mugs of coffee, warming their hands against the autumn chill. "The Adaptive Mobility Project launches next month," Alexander said, breaking their comfortable silence. "The board unanimously approved the final design, your design." Pride warmed Olivia's chest. The wheelchair prototype she had helped develop incorporated innovations that would transform mobility options for thousands. "That's wonderful news. The control system improvements will make a real difference for users with limited upper body strength." Marcus presented the quarterly projections yesterday. Alexander's tone remained casual, though something in his expression suggested significance beyond simple business. "The Adaptive Technology Division is projected to become our most profitable sector within 2 years." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "I thought Marcus considered it a charitable venture with limited commercial potential." Marcus has revised his position. Alexander's slight smile carried satisfaction without arrogance. "In fact, he's become quite enthusiastic about our mutually beneficial professional collaboration." The carefully chosen phrase hinted at conversations held behind closed doors, boardroom battles fought and won. Alexander had championed her work without making her feel like a charity case, validated her contributions while creating space for her independence. The delicate balance he maintained between support and respect was continued to dismantle her defenses. "I've been thinking," Alexander continued, watching golden leaves drift from the trees surrounding his property. "The consultation contract ends next month." The statement hung in the air, laden with unspoken questions. Would their professional association conclude? What would that mean for their personal connection? "I've been offered a position at Cornell's Veterinary College." Olivia said, the words emerging before she'd planned them. "Teaching adaptive veterinary techniques for practitioners with disabilities. 3 days a week." Alexander's expression remained unreadable. "When would you start?" "January, if I accept." The air between them hummed with possibility and uncertainty. For months, they had used their professional relationship as a scaffold, supporting the tentative architecture of something more personal. Removing that framework would test the structure's integrity. "That's an incredible opportunity," Alexander said finally. "You'd be exceptional at it." "I haven't decided yet." Olivia met his gaze directly. "There are considerations." The unspoken hung between them. Lily's attachment to her, their evolving relationship, the complicated geometry of lives being redrawn around new centers. "Whatever you decide," Alexander said carefully, "nothing has to change between us unless you want it to." Before Olivia could respond, Lily's voice carried from the yard. "Dad, Olivia, come quick, a dear family." The moment of potential definition evaporated as they moved to join Lily at the property's edge, where a doe and two fawns grazed cautiously at the forest line. The child's wonder created a bubble of perfection, the three of them sharing a moment of quiet magic as autumn light filtered through the trees. Later that afternoon, as Olivia prepared to leave, Alexander walked her to her car. "Lily's birthday is next weekend. Nothing elaborate, just a small party with her classmates. She'd love for you to come." "I wouldn't miss it," Olivia replied, the commitment feeling significant somehow, another thread binding them together. Alexander helped her into her car with practiced ease, his hands sure but respectful. As she started the engine, he leaned down to her open window. "About Cornell, take the position if it's what you want. Burlington to Ithaca isn't so far. We could make it work." The casual "we" slipped naturally into his sentence, naming the undefined thing between them for perhaps the first time. Olivia felt something shift inside her chest, a door opening to possibility rather than closing against fear. The week passed in a blur of preparations for the mobility device launch and Lily's birthday. Olivia found herself increasingly integrated into both aspects of Alexander's life, providing final technical input for the product presentation while helping select decorations for a 6-year-old's party. The dual role felt increasingly natural, though questions about their future hovered unaddressed. Friday afternoon, 2 days before Lily's party, Olivia received an unexpected visitor at her apartment. Rebecca Hayes, immaculately dressed and radiating practiced charm. "May I come in? I believe we need to talk." The request left little room for refusal. Olivia wheeled back from the doorway, allowing Alexander's ex-wife to enter her modest space. Rebecca's gaze swept the apartment, taking inventory with barely concealed judgment. "Cozy," she pronounced the single word, somehow transforming Olivia's home into something inadequate. "I'll be direct, Dr. Warner. I'm concerned about your relationship with my daughter." "Your daughter?" Olivia kept her voice level despite the immediate surge of protectiveness. "The one you abandoned 4 years ago." Rebecca's perfect composure didn't falter. "Motherhood is complicated. I made mistakes I deeply regret, but Lily is still my child. I'm working to rebuild that relationship, which becomes more difficult when she's forming attachments to substitutes." "I've never tried to replace you," Olivia countered. "Lily knows exactly who her mother is." "Does she?" Rebecca settled onto Olivia's couch, crossing long legs with deliberate grace. "Because she mentioned that you help with homework, attend school functions, and stay overnight at Alexander's house. That sounds remarkably maternal." The accusation struck with precision. While Olivia had indeed grown closer to Lily, spending increasing time at Alexander's home, she had never presumed to take a mother's place. Yet the boundary had undeniably blurred as their relationship evolved. "My relationship with Lily is between her father and me," Olivia replied, refusing to be intimidated despite the knot forming in her stomach. Rebecca's smile didn't reach her eyes. "And what exactly is your relationship with Alexander, the devoted employee?" The inspirational disabled friend, the convenient companion for his motherless child, or something more intimate. Heat rushed to Olivia's face. That's none of your business. It becomes my business when it affects my family. Rebecca leaned forward, dropping all pretense of pleasantness. I've decided to petition for joint custody of Lily. My attorney believes I have an excellent iron, stable finances, a suitable home, and genuine efforts to reconnect with my daughter. The courts generally favor biological mothers, especially against unconventional arrangements. The threat hung in the air, its implications crystallizing with devastating clarity. Rebecca was positioning Olivia's presence as potentially harmful to Lily's stability, suggesting that Alexander's involvement with a disabled woman somehow made him a less fit parent. You would use your daughter as leverage. The realization sickened Olivia. To what end? Rebecca's mask slipped further, revealing calculation beneath the polished exterior. Alexander and I share history and a child. We were building an empire together before Lily's diagnosis complicated matters. I've grown since then, recognized my mistakes. With Hayes Medical's expansion, our reconciliation makes sense personally and professionally. The pieces aligned with nauseating clarity. Rebecca wanted Alexander back not from love, but for status and financial gain. Olivia represented an obstacle to her ambitions. Alexander deserves someone whole, Rebecca added, the casual cruelty delivered with a sympathetic smile. Someone who can stand beside him at corporate functions, travel without complications, give Lily's siblings, perhaps. Your presence confuses matters for everyone, especially Lily. If you truly care about them, you'd consider what's best for the child. Each word struck with surgical precision, targeting Olivia's deepest insecurities. The same doubts she'd wrestled with for months now, delivered in Rebecca's cultured voice, lending them new weight and authority. I think you should leave. Olivia managed her hands, gripping her wheelchair arms to hide their trembling. Rebecca rose with fluid grace. Consider what I've said. Lily deserves a real family, her family. Don't make her another casualty of Alexander's charitable impulses. At the door, she paused. I won't mention our conversation to Alexander, and I suggest you don't either. These matters are better resolved without drama. After Rebecca departed, Olivia sat motionless, her apartment suddenly feeling small or insufficient. Rebecca's accusations echoed, finding purchase in the fertile soil of her own doubts. Was she complicating Lily's already complex life, creating confusion during a critical period of reconnection with her biological mother, placing Alexander in an untenable position between his child's needs and his evolving relationship? Most devastating was the recognition of truth within Rebecca's manipulation. Olivia wasn't Lily's mother. Her relationship with Alexander remained deliberately undefined. Her disability did create complications, neither of them fully acknowledged. Perhaps she had allowed herself to slide into a role that wasn't truly hers to claim. The phone rang, shattering her spiraling thoughts. Alexander's name flashed on the screen. Lily's asking if you're still coming for dinner tonight, he said when she answered, his voice warm with easy affection. She's made you something at school and can't wait another minute to give it to you. The simple domestic scene he painted contrasted sharply with Rebecca's cold assessment. Olivia closed her eyes, torn between the reality she'd been building with them and the doubts now crowding her mind. Actually, I'm not feeling well, she lied, hating the deception but needing space to think. Might be coming down with something. I should probably rest before Lily's party. Concern immediately replaced casual warmth in Alexander's tone. Do you need anything? I can bring soup, medication? No, really, I just need sleep. I'll be fine by Sunday. The distance she created felt necessary yet painful. After ending the call, Olivia wheeled to her window, staring out at the darkening November sky. Rebecca's visit had shattered the delicate equilibrium she'd been maintaining, forcing confrontation with questions she'd been carefully avoiding. What was her place in Alexander and Lily's life? What right did she have to insert herself into their family dynamics? If Rebecca genuinely wanted to reclaim her maternal role, was Olivia's presence an impediment to that healing? The custody threat loomed largest. Would her relationship with Alexander somehow jeopardize his rights to Lily? Saturday passed in isolation, Olivia ignoring Alexander's concerned messages with brief reassurances about rest and recovery. By Sunday morning, she had reached no resolution, her thoughts circling without conclusion as she dressed for Lily's birthday party. The Hayes home transformed for the celebration balloons and streamers, brightening the modern interior, excited children racing through rooms usually characterized by calm order. Olivia arrived early as promised, placing her gift on the designated table before seeking Alexander in the kitchen. He looked up from arranging cupcakes, relief washing over his features. "You're here. I was worried when you didn't answer my calls yesterday. Just needed rest." She deflected, busying herself with party preparations to avoid his searching gaze. Throughout the afternoon, Olivia maintained careful distance from Alexander, focusing instead on helping supervise games and serving cake to sugar-fueled 6-year-olds. If he noticed her withdrawal, he respected it, though. Questioning glances followed her movements. Lily remained blissfully oblivious to the tension, basking in birthday attention and delighting in Olivia's presence. When she opened Olivia's gift, a junior veterinary kit complete with realistic animal models for examination, her squeal of delight momentarily pierced the cloud of doubt surrounding Olivia's heart. "Now I can practice being an animal doctor like you." Lily threw her arms around Olivia's neck. "This is the best present ever." The moment of connection shattered when Olivia glanced up to find Rebecca watching from the doorway, her arrival unannounced. The birthday party invitation had been Alexander's concession to her improved relationship with Lily, a gesture of goodwill Olivia had supported before their private conversation. Rebecca's eyes held knowing triumph as she witnessed Lily's enthusiasm for Olivia's gift. The message was clear. Remember our discussion. Remember your place. The party's energy shifted with Rebecca's entrance. Alexander maintained polite cordiality, while Lily bounced between her mother and the ongoing festivities with increasing confusion about where to direct her attention. Rebecca played her part perfectly, the doting mother bearing expensive gifts, making subtle comments about family resemblance and maternal bonds within Alexander's hearing. As the party wound down and guests departed, Olivia found herself increasingly sidelined, watching Rebecca smoothly insert herself into the family tableau. The subtle choreography was masterful, Rebecca helping Lily gather her presents, consulting with Alexander about cake leftovers, creating casual physical proximity at every opportunity. When only family remained, Rebecca made her move. "Lily Lee, darling, I have another surprise for you. What would you think about coming to stay at my house next weekend? I've prepared a special room just for you." Lily's eyes widened. "A sleepover at your house?" "If your father agrees," Rebecca added, turning expectantly to Alexander. "It seems time to move beyond supervised visits, don't you think, for Lily's sake?" The request delivered in front of the child left Alexander little room to maneuver without disappointing his daughter. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "We can discuss the details later." Of course," Rebecca agreed smoothly. Family decisions require proper consideration. The emphasis on family wasn't lost on anyone. Olivia felt herself fading to the periphery of this tableau, the outsider witnessing an intimate negotiation where she held no standing. Whatever role she had played in their lives suddenly seemed presumptuous, temporary. "I should go," she announced quietly. "Let you handle the rest of the birthday celebrations privately." Alexander's gaze snapped to her face, confusion evident. "You don't need to leave." But Olivia was already moving toward the door, unable to bear another minute of Rebecca's orchestrated performance. "I'll call you tomorrow," she promised, though uncertainty clouded her voice. The drive home passed in a blur of unshed tears and circling thoughts. Rebecca's warnings about custody battles and Lily's needs intertwined with memories of the child's delight at her gift. Alexander's steady presence, the family they were perhaps foolishly constructing. By morning, Olivia had reached a painful decision. Professional ethics demanded distance, personal integrity required honesty. She would complete her contractual obligations at Hayes Medical, accept the Cornell position, and step back from whatever tenuous family role she had begun to occupy. Alexander and Lily deserved clarity, not complicated entanglements that might harm their family reconstruction. Rebecca's manipulations contained enough truth to be effective. Olivia wasn't Lily's mother. Her relationship with Alexander remained undefined. Her disability did create complications they hadn't fully addressed. Perhaps she had been selfish, allowing herself to imagine a future that wasn't hers to claim. Alexander called 3 times before she answered Monday evening after work. His voice carried concern and confusion. "Are you avoiding me? Did something happen at the party?" "We need to talk," Olivia replied, summoning resolve. "Not over the phone. Can you come to my apartment tomorrow evening?" The silence stretched before his quiet response. "Should I be worried?" "Just We need to talk, she repeated, unable to offer reassurance without dishonesty. Alexander arrived at her apartment precisely at 7 the following evening, his expression guarded. He declined her offer of coffee, remaining standing, as if anticipating bad news that required readiness for quick departure. What's happening, Olivia? You've been distant since Lily's birthday. Since before that, actually. She had rehearsed this conversation repeatedly, constructing careful sentences designed to minimize pain while ensuring necessary separation. Yet facing him, this man who had gathered her broken pieces from a church garden and helped her rebuild herself, the prepared speech dissolved. Rebecca came to see me, she admitted instead. Before Lily's party, she's planning to petition for joint custody. Alexander's expression hardened. What does that have to do with us, with how you've been acting? She believes my presence is confusing for Lily, creating attachment to someone who isn't, Olivia swallowed hard, who isn't her mother, who isn't family. Rebecca doesn't decide who's important to Lily, Alexander countered, moving closer to Olivia's wheelchair. I do. Lily does. She threatened to use our relationship against you in court. The words emerged painfully. Suggested your involvement with me demonstrates poor judgment regarding Lily's stability and needs. Anger flashed across Alexander's features. That's absurd. No court would. Courts have made decisions on less, Olivia interrupted. And she's not entirely wrong, Alexander. What am I to Lily? What am I to you? We've carefully avoided defining anything because it's complicated and messy and terrifying. Is that what this is about, definitions? Alexander knelt beside her wheelchair, meeting her at eye level as he had since their first meeting. If you need labels, we can establish them right now. It's not about labels, Olivia protested, wheeling slightly back to create necessary distance. It's about reality. I'm not Lily's mother. I have no legal standing in her life. My presence creates complications for her relationship with Rebecca for your custody arrangement. Lily adores you, Alexander argued. You've been more consistent in her life these past months than Rebecca has been in years. That doesn't give me rights, Olivia persisted. I've accepted the position at Cornell. I start in January. The statement landed between them like a physical barrier. Alexander's expression shifted from confusion to understanding, then to something approaching desperation. Cornell is 3 hours away, he said carefully. That's manageable. We can make it work. I don't think we should. Olivia forced herself to continue despite the pain blooming in her chest. Lily needs stability, clarity. She's reconnecting with her mother. My presence creates unnecessary complexity during a critical period. This is Rebecca manipulating you, Alexander insisted, using your insecurities against you. Maybe, Olivia acknowledged, but that doesn't make the concerns invalid. What are we doing, Alexander, playing house without commitments, creating attachments without foundations? Lily deserves better than ambiguity. Then let's remove the ambiguity. Alexander reached for her hand, his grip urgent. I love you, Olivia. I think I have since that day in the garden. I've been patient, giving you space to heal, to trust again. But if definition is what you need, then hear me clearly. I love you. I want you in my life, in Lily's life, permanently. The declaration, so longed for yet now so painful, nearly shattered her resolve. Olivia closed her eyes against the tears threatening to fall. You deserve someone who doesn't complicate your life, Alexander. Someone who can give Lily's siblings attend functions on your arm without accessibility concerns. Someone who... Stop, Alexander commanded, genuine anger entering his voice. Don't echo Rebecca's prejudice. That's not you speaking. It's her poison. He took a steadying breath. The man who abandoned you at the altar thought you needed to walk to be worthy of love. Do you really believe I share that limitation? The parallel struck with devastating clarity. Was she not doing exactly what James had done, deciding Alexander's needs and preferences without truly consulting him, determining what he deserved rather than respecting his choice? I'm scared, Olivia whispered, truth finally emerging from beneath layers of rationalization. Scared of disrupting Lily's life, scared of custody battles, scared of believing in something that feels too perfect to be real. Perfect, Alexander's laugh held no humor. We're messy and complicated and still figuring things out. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. His expression softened. Fear is understandable, Olivia, but don't let fear make your decisions. And don't let Rebecca's manipulation separate us. Olivia stared at their joined hands, the contrast of his strength against her uncertainty. What if she's right? What if my presence does make things harder for Lily? Lily told me something yesterday, Alexander said quietly. She said she has two kinds of special people. Now a birth mom who's learning to love her, and a heart mom who loved her from the start. Children understand more than we credit them for. She doesn't need fewer people who love her. She needs adults who put her needs first. The simplicity of the child's perception cut through layers of adult complication. Lily had created her own category for Olivia, neither replacement nor competition, but additional love in her life. Rebecca will fight, Olivia warned. She'll use anything against you. Let her, Alexander replied with calm certainty. I've never been afraid of fighting for what matters. He tightened his grip on her hand. But I can't fight for us if you've already surrendered. The challenge hung between them, a recognition that fear not Rebecca's threats formed the true barrier. Olivia had survived abandonment on her wedding day, rebuilt her professional identity, learned to navigate life with a disability. Yet the prospect of believing in this unexpected love terrified her more than any previous challenge. I need time, she whispered, not to run away but to think clearly, without pressure from Rebecca or expectations or fear clouding everything. Alexander nodded slowly, releasing her hand. Take the time you need, but promise me one thing, don't make decisions based on what you think Lily and I need. We've already chosen you, Olivia. The only question is whether you'll choose us back. After he left, Olivia sat motionless beside her window, watching night descend over Burlington. The city lights reflected on Lake Champlain's dark surface mimicking the stars above. Somewhere in those lights, Alexander and Lily continued their evening routine homework, dinner, bedtime stories, a rhythm she had increasingly become part of before Rebecca's intervention. The following week passed in professional interaction, Olivia fulfilling her contractual obligations at Hayes Medical while maintaining personal distance. Alexander respected her request for space limiting communication to necessary work matters, though his gaze held questions whenever they encountered each other. Friday afternoon, as Olivia reviewed final documentation for the mobility device launch, Marcus Reed appeared in her office doorway. His usual stern expression had softened to something approaching respect. The board approved your contract extension, he announced without preamble, if you're interested in continuing beyond the project launch. Surprise momentarily rendered Olivia speechless. I thought the consulting position was temporary. It was, Marcus acknowledged, but your contributions have exceeded expectations. The board believes maintaining your involvement would benefit Hayes Medical's adaptive technology initiatives. He hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing his features. For what it's worth, I agree with their assessment. Your work has been impressive. The admission clearly cost him pride, making it all the more significant. Thank you, Olivia replied, genuinely moved by the professional validation. But I've accepted a teaching position at Cornell beginning January. Marcus nodded, professional mask returning. Alexander mentioned that possibility. The offer remains open should your circumstances change. He turned to leave, then paused. He's different with you, you know. More focused, more human. Whatever your personal arrangement, it has benefited the company. The unexpected observation lingered after Marcus departed. Even Alexander's corporate rival had recognized the positive influence of their relationship, professional and personal. The realization unsettled the careful distance she had been maintaining. That evening, Lily called the first direct contact initiated by the child since the birthday party. Are you mad at me? Her small voice asked without preamble. You haven't visited since my party. Of course not, Olivia assured her, heart constricting. I've just been busy with work. Dad says you are thinking about important stuff, Lily continued with childish directness. But I miss you. Einstein misses you too. He keeps looking at the door when we have pancakes. The simple statement penetrated deeper than Alexander's declaration of love or Marcus's professional endorsement. In the child's perception, Olivia belonged at their breakfast table, expected and missed in her absence. I miss you too, Olivia admitted softly. Both of you. Then why don't you come back? Lily's question contained the straightforward logic only children can muster. If people miss each other, they should be together. Out of the mouths of babes. The fundamental truth pierced through layers of adult complexity, fear, insecurity, societal expectations, cutting to the heart of what mattered. If they were better together than apart, why construct elaborate rationales for separation? I'll see you soon. Olivia promised a decision, crystallizing with unexpected clarity. Tell your dad I'll call him tomorrow. Instead of calling, Olivia drove to Alexander's office early Saturday morning, knowing his weekend routine included reviewing international reports before most employees arrived. The Hayes Medical Building stood quiet, most floors darkened except the executive level where Alexander's corner office overlooked the lake. She found him behind his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, documents spread before him. He looked up at her entrance, surprise giving way to cautious hope. Rebecca doesn't get to decide who loves Lily, Olivia stated without preamble. And she certainly doesn't get to decide who loves you. Alexander removed his glasses slowly. No, she doesn't. I'm still taking the Cornell position, Olivia continued, wheeling closer to his desk. It's important to me professionally, and I need to maintain my own identity independent of Hayes Medical. I understand, Alexander replied, his expression unreadable. Ithaca is manageable for weekends. It would be, Olivia agreed, but I was thinking more of a commuting arrangement. 3 days in Ithaca, 4 days here, if that works for you and Lily. Understanding dawned in Alexander's eyes. That would work very well for us. I can't promise it will be easy, Olivia cautioned, her hands gripping her wheelchair arms. Rebecca will still object. There will be complications, logistics, challenges we haven't anticipated. Alexander moved from behind his desk, kneeling before her wheelchair, with the same natural respect he had shown since their first meeting. Life is always complicated, he reminded her gently. That's not a reason to walk away from something extraordinary. No, Olivia agreed, reaching for his hand. It's not. The mobility device launch ceremony took place in Hayes Medical's grand atrium 1 week later. Corporate executives mingled with medical professionals and disability advocates beneath soaring glass ceilings. Olivia watched from the side as Alexander delivered his opening remarks, Lily standing proudly beside him in her best dress. Hayes Medical was founded on a simple principle, Alexander told the assembled crowd, that innovation should serve humanity, and all of humanity, regardless of ability or circumstance. His gaze found Olivia across the room. The device we launched today represents that commitment, designed not as an afterthought or adaptation, but as purpose-built technology that expands independence and dignity. After the formal presentation, as attendees examined the prototype displays, Rebecca materialized beside Olivia. Her perfect appearance contrasted with the simmering anger barely concealed beneath her polished surface. This doesn't change anything, she stated coldly. My custody petition moves forward next month. I expected nothing less, Olivia replied, maintaining calm despite her racing heart. But you should know Alexander and I are no longer hiding our relationship. The board is aware. Lily is aware. Your insinuations about impropriety or confusion hold no power anymore. Rebecca's composure slipped momentarily. He'll tire of the novelty eventually, the challenge of accessibility, the limitations on spontaneity, the constant accommodations they wear on relationships, especially for someone accustomed to perfection. Perfection is vastly overrated, Olivia replied, and often disguises profound emptiness. Rebecca flinched as if struck. You know nothing about me. I know you left your husband and child when life became complicated, Olivia said quietly. I know you returned when his company's value tripled. I know you use your daughter as leverage for financial gain. She met Rebecca's gaze directly. And I know that regardless of what happens with custody arrangements, I'll be in Lily's life, supporting her relationship with both her parents while loving her in my own right. Before Rebecca could respond, Lily bounded over, excitement overflowing. Did you see Olivia? Everyone loves the new wheelchair. A lady said it changed her life already. I saw. Olivia confirmed, her focus shifting entirely to the child. Your father's speech was perfect. Lily beamed with pride, then turned to Rebecca with inclusive enthusiasm. Mom, did you see Dad's special surprise? He hasn't shown it yet, but he said it's coming after the speeches. Rebecca's smile thinned. I'm sure it will be lovely, darling. As if on cue, Alexander approached his public CEO persona firmly in place. The demonstration begins in 5 minutes, he informed them, professional tone belying the warmth in his eyes when they met Olivia's. Lily, would you help escort our special guest to the front row? The child skipped ahead importantly while Rebecca drifted toward a group of board members, leaving Alexander and Olivia momentarily alone. Nervous, Alexander asked quietly. Terrified, Olivia admitted, but ready. The atrium lights dimmed as Alexander returned to the podium. Innovation doesn't happen in isolation, he began. The breakthrough we celebrate today emerged from collaboration between engineers, medical professionals, and most importantly, the community this technology serves. He gestured toward Olivia. Our lead consultant, Dr. Olivia Warner, not only contributed technical expertise but embodied the principle that disability doesn't diminish brilliance value or capacity for extraordinary achievement. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Olivia wheeled forward, joining Alexander on the small stage. The mobility device prototype gleamed under spotlights, its sleek design unlike any wheelchair currently available. Dr. Warner will now demonstrate the adaptive control system she helped pioneer, Alexander announced, stepping back. For the next 15 minutes, Olivia guided the audience through the innovative features, her professional expertise evident in every explanation. The crowd responded with genuine appreciation, technical questions revealing engagement beyond polite interest. As the demonstration concluded, Alexander returned to the microphone. Hayes Medical has always been a family company. He stated, his tone shifting towards something more personal. Founded because my sister needed technology that didn't exist, guided by values that place human dignity at the center of innovation. He motioned Lily to join them on stage. Family defines our purpose. Family inspires our vision. Olivia watched confusion cross Rebecca's face as Alexander continued. Today, we celebrate not only technological advancement, but the personal courage required to reimagine possibility. Alexander turned toward Olivia, his public persona giving way to vulnerable authenticity. Dr. Warner first demonstrated that courage in a church garden 8 months ago, finding strength where others might have found only despair. She continues to demonstrate it daily, challenging assumptions about ability, independence, and worthiness. The atrium fell silent as Alexander knelt beside Olivia's wheelchair, taking her hand. Gasps rippled through the assembly as understanding dawned. Technology can transform mobility. Alexander continued, his voice carrying clearly despite the intimate gesture. But only love transforms lives. Olivia has transformed mine and Lily's by showing us that real strength isn't found in physical ability, but in the courage to remain open to possibility even after devastating loss. From his pocket, Alexander produced a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a diamond ring catching fire under the atrium lights. This isn't how I planned to ask, he admitted quietly, though the microphone carried his words throughout the space. But I'm tired of waiting for perfect moments when we could be creating a perfect life together. Olivia's vision blurred with unexpected tears. In the audience, she registered Rebecca's shocked expression, Marcus Reed's reluctant smile, and the collective held breath of the assembled crowd. Olivia Warner, Alexander continued, his voice steady despite the public vulnerability of the moment. Will you marry me? 8 months earlier, she had sat abandoned in her wedding dress, believing her life had ended. Now surrounded by witnesses to her professional achievement, Olivia found herself offered a second chance she had never imagined possible. Yes, she whispered, then louder as confidence filled her voice. Yes, I will. Applause erupted as Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger. Lily squealed with delight, throwing her arms around both of them in unrestrained joy. Does this mean you'll be my mom for real? She asked Olivia, loud enough for nearby attendees to hear. It means I'll love you forever, Olivia replied, carefully aware of Rebecca watching from the front row. Your mom will always be your mom. I'll be something different, but just as special. Lily considered this with solemn concentration. Like how a metamorphic rock changes, but keeps its important parts. Exactly like that. Olivia agreed, meeting Rebecca's gaze across the distance. A silent message passed between them, not surrender, but recognition. Whatever battles lay ahead would be fought with Lily's welfare as the central concern. Later that evening, after celebration dinner and Lily's bedtime, Alexander and Olivia sat on his deck overlooking the lake. Stars reflected on the water's surface, mirroring the lights of Burlington spreading along the shore. Are you ready for this? Alexander asked, his fingers intertwined with hers. Rebecca won't make it easy. Nothing worthwhile comes easily, Olivia replied, the weight of his ring still unfamiliar on her finger. But I'm done letting fear make my decisions. Snow began to fall, the season's first flakes drifting silently from the night sky, transforming the landscape with gentle persistence. Each crystal insignificant alone, yet collectively powerful enough to reshape the world. 1 year ago today, Alexander mused, watching the gathering white, I had no idea you existed. Now I can't imagine a future without you in it. The worst moments can lead to the most unexpected gifts. Olivia agreed, remembering the garden, the tears, the broken dreams that had somehow led to this new beginning. Sometimes rejection creates space for something better to grow. They sat together in comfortable silence as snow continued to fall, nature's reminder that beauty often emerges from the coldest seasons. Tomorrow would bring challenges, custody hearings, logistical arrangements, wedding plans, but tonight was for savoring the journey that had brought them here. From strangers in a church garden to family under falling snow, connected by the recognition that true love doesn't walk away when life gets hard. It sits down and stays.